Heidi Heitkamp, John Tester, and Joe Donnelly are conservative Democrats up for re-election this year, and they have a really interesting electoral strategy. So I'm going to tell you what they're boasting about. Well, you know from the title, but I'm going to tell you more specifically why they're boasting about a policy that they should pretend they never supported. So according to Sylvan Lane of The Hill, 3 vulnerable Senate Democrats hailing from states President Trump won in 2016 are touting their work on a new bipartisan banking law, portraying it as proof of their independence in Washington. Democratic Senators Heidi Heitkamp, John Tester, and Joe Donnelly co-authored the bipartisan legislation signed by Trump on Thursday that eases the regulatory oversight imposed on banks and credit unions by the Dodd-Frank Act. The senators say their bill is a prime example of their ability to work across party lines and solve problems, a message they are eager to bring back to voters in their home states. One-size-fits-all rules from Washington have been strangling Montana's Main Street economy and threatening our rural way of life, Tester said, after the House passed the bill on Tuesday, sending it to Trump. When the extremes on both sides of the aisle tried to derail our efforts, we bucked partisan politics and instead found common ground, he said. Now understand this. The banking industry in this country is deeply unpopular. By broadcasting to voters that you just helped and were really one of the main individuals that catalyzed this effort to deregulate Wall Street further, you're not going to win any voters over to your side, not even conservative voters. And if you do, I can't imagine that number of voters you're going to win over by boasting about deregulating Wall Street would be substantial. So really, what's their goal here? What are they trying to accomplish in broadcasting something really they should be ashamed about? Well, really, all you have to do is follow the money to get an answer. This is them basically saying to their donors in the financial industry, hey, look what we just did. We just did your bidding. Now pay it forward and donate to our campaigns because we may be in trouble. And as you saw, we delivered, so now deliver for us. And lo and behold, would you look at that? Can you guess who commercial banks have contributed to the most in this election cycle? It happens to be Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly, and John Tester, the top 3 recipients in the Democratic Party. I mean, they are completely shameless here. This is nothing more than corruption. So when you look at Heidi Heitkamp's top donors throughout her career, they include Goldman Sachs, Signature Bank, Blackstone Group. John Tester's top donors include Blackstone Group, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo. And while Joe Donnelly himself doesn't have as much career-long ties to commercial banks as his colleagues do, well, he's still rolling in bank money in this election cycle. So this is corruption. When you look at the top 20 recipients of political contributions from commercial banks, they're in the top 4. So it's very clear what they're trying to do here. They're trying to solicit donations from more commercial banks. That is so disgusting, so shameless, that I don't know how they don't resign in shame, because clearly they're broadcasting to their constituents that they don't care at all what they think. Do you honestly think that their constituents, liberal Democratic Party voters, no matter how centrist they are going to be excited about the fact that they deregulated Wall Street further, that they loosened banking regulations that Obama signed into law? Really? You think that Democratic Party voters are going to be in favor of that? I mean, what more evidence do you need that they're sellouts? They don't care about their constituents. They're there for self-serving reasons. They're career politicians, and they want to make sure that they extend the length of their career by continuing to rake in cash from the banking industry. It's absolutely despicable. So even though it's obviously the case that Republicans are also equally sold out to big banks, if not more so, these Democrats facilitate Republican victories. They embolden the right because voters see this and realize that Democrats, they're not that much better than Republicans, certainly not better enough to put up with the hassle involved in voting, and they just decide to stay home and not come out to support these corporate Democrats because, if you're only going to be screwed over a little bit less by Democrats than Republicans, then that ultimately makes the hassle of voting not worthwhile in a lot of voters' views. It's probably why voter turnout in the United States is so low. So what party leaders like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer need to do is they need to show a little bit of tough love for once and try to rein in these rogue Democrats and say, hey, you can't do shit like this because it hurts the party. It hurts our image. It brings down everyone in the Democratic Party. You just can't do it. And they have tools that they can use to get these Democrats to comply. It may not work, but I mean, they can at least try. They could threaten to cut off funding for their elections from Democratic Party organizations. They can threaten that. But they're not doing that. And it's because they like that Democrats like Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly, John Tester are delivering because they still want donations to be funneled to the Democratic Party from the financial industry. They're all corrupt. It's just that, few are willing to openly brag about their corruption, like Heidi Heitkamp, John Tester, and Joe Donnelly. So, I mean, this is absolutely, it's morally reprehensible, and it is overt corruption. And this is illegal, though. They're not doing anything illegal here. It just shows you how broken our system really is and why we need public financing of elections as soon as possible.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.